Hey, it's the Midnight Raven, and today we're going to do part 3 in the Vanishing Triangle case. Excuse my washing machine if you can hear it. It's the bane of having a flat and having to film. So today we're looking at part 3 of the Vanishing Triangle. This was a case where 6 women in an 80 square mile area seemed to disappear and vanish without a trace. Each of these cases seemed to happen in the Wicklow Mountains 80-mile square area, and each seemed to have connections that were similar, with the women being alone when they were abducted and also having some link to Larry Murphy. Now, Larry Murphy, as I discussed in part 1, if you haven't seen part 1 and 2, I will link it, had abducted, assaulted, and tried to kill a woman. He was arrested and sent to prison for 15 years. But while he was in prison, no other women disappeared. Suspicious or coincidence? So these are another 3 cases that can apparently be linked in some way to Larry. And we're going to look at these cases and decide whether Larry is potentially the suspect in each case. The previous 3 cases, if you haven't seen that was in part 2, I will link it. These women had been alone in the evening, were abducted, and never seen again. So, the first case we're going to look at is Sierra Breen. So, she was the youngest out of the 6. She was 17 years old and was the next woman to go missing. Sierra was last seen by her mum, Bernadette, when they both went to bed around midnight on the 13th of February 1997 at around 2 a.m. Bernadette, the mother, got up to around 2 a.m. to go to the toilet to find Sierra had snuck out of the house, leaving her window on the latch. Obviously, she had snuck out while her mother was asleep and was planning to sneak back in with the latch being on the window. Now, the prime suspect in her case was an older man named Liam Mullen. Now, Liam had lived close to the family, and while he insisted there was no relationship with Sierra, it was suspected that this was the man she'd been sneaking out to see. So, since they said that Liam had been the one she was sneaking out, he was then effectively, apart from the mum, one possible person that had last seen her alive. Liam was arrested not once, but twice, questioning him on the whereabouts of Sierra. Now, Liam was released with no charge because at that time they had no body, and with Sierra not having been found without no body, you cannot really charge anybody in the UK of a crime without a body. In America, you can actually charge someone for the murder with no body, but this time it was just circumstantial evidence that he'd been the one she'd gone to see. Now, Liam would die from an overdose. Was this guilt from taking the life of Sierra? We may never know. He would die of an overdose while in police custody in 2017. But apart from that, no one was charged for the disappearance of Sierra Breen, and she has never been seen since. The next case of a young woman that went missing was Fiona, I think you pronounce her name Sinnott. I'm sorry if that's pronounced wrong. Fiona Sinnott went missing on the 9th of February 1998. Now, Fiona was 19. She was a mother of an 11-month-old daughter and was said to have been looking forward to celebrating her daughter's first birthday. One night, she disappeared. She had originally gone out to hang with friends at a pub, and after the pub closed, she went back home to her daughter. She went home and her ex-boyfriend's parents were looking after the daughter. It took Fiona's parents 10 days before she was reported missing. Unbelievable that a parent would wait so long to report their missing daughter. Fiona had contact with her parents, but she didn't contact her parents daily. So it would take her parents time to realize that their daughter had gone missing. The ex-boyfriend was questioned, but was ruled out as a suspect. There were no other sightings of her, but when the police searched her home, there was an absence of her clothes and her belongings. Could this have been that the boyfriend had thrown them out? Had they had an argument and he'd chucked her stuff? Had she taken her stuff with her? Over the years, various arrests were made, but no one was ever charged with anything. And with no body, no one could be charged for her disappearance. In 2009, though, medical records would show injuries from domestic abuse when she was 6 months pregnant. In 2020, the family received new information on sites where Fiona may have been buried, but she has yet to be found and her case still remains open. So, had she been abducted? Had she left of her own free will? We may never know. And the last case in the Vanishing Triangle case of the 6 women that went missing in this time frame is Deirdre Jacob. Now, Deirdre was a trainee school teacher and she was 18 years old. On the 28th of July 1998, she was visiting her grandmother and had walked to her grandmother's home in a nearby town. She had then walked home. Several neighbours said they spotted her within 200 yards of her home, and they were the last sightings of Deirdre. Investigators had followed up on over 2,300 lines of inquiry, and over the years had numerous neighbours questioned. This young girl had walked from her grandmother's, from town, and back home again, and was actually seen 200 yards from her house. It is unbelievable in that small space of time that she could have disappeared. So, investigators, like I said, did 3,200 lines of inquiry, and over the years, many theories would arise. Theories would include that Larry might be responsible, as he'd done some carpentry work for Deirdre's grandmother in the past. Could he have met Deirdre and then maybe become infatuated with her and kidnapped her because of the connection to the grandmother? In May 2020, the director of public prosecutions was considering whether to charge Larry, but so far there has been no arrests in this case, and whether Larry was connected or not still remains a mystery. So, in all of these cases, it is very suspicious that Larry either had a connection to the grandma, lived nearby. Is it possible he was involved in all 6 of these cases? With no bodies, you cannot charge anybody in the UK for a murder. Basically, they just become missing women, which is absolutely terrible. They face no justice. Or is it possible in the case of some of these women, some of them just left their partners, as i.e. the previous one, where she just seemed to have took her stuff and disappeared? So these were the 6 cases. We had the Deirdre Jacob case, we had the Fiona Sanote case, we had the Sierra Breen case, and then in part 2 we looked at Fiona Pender, Jojo Dullard, and we looked at Annie McCarrick. These were 6 women that disappeared in an 80 square mile area of the Wicklow Mountains. Larry Murphy seems to be the only prime suspect in all 6 cases, but with no bodies, you cannot charge him for a crime where technically no one has died. It's a very grey area in the British law, where if you don't have a body, no crime has taken place. These women are basically just classed as 6 missing women until their bodies turn up, where then a police investigation can be looked at further. So this was the Vanishing Triangle case. This was the case of 6 women in the wrong place at the wrong time, and their whereabouts are unknown. If you want to spend more time with Raven, do remember to like and subscribe. Give us a big thumbs up if you enjoyed this case. Let me know down below, do you believe Larry Murphy had something to do with these women's cases, or is it just pure coincidence? This is True Crime with Raven, and I will have a new case for you very soon. Don't you worry about that. If you want to become a member, a PayPal, or to give a super chat, every penny goes into my channel, goes into the many hours it takes me to research this case and film. And I will see you very soon for another case. This is True Crime with Raven. Take care and thanks for watching. Bye all.